The bruise around her eye was still purple when she walked onto the cracked pavement of the old gas station, clutching her backpack like it was the only safe thing she had left in the world. The morning wind pushed her hair into her face, but she didn't try to fix it. She didn't see the bikers at first, 27 roaring engines cooling under the metal canopy, leather vests, boots, tattoos, and the thunderous presence of men who looked like they feared nothing. But she wasn't looking for fear. She was looking for help, and when she finally lifted her eyes, swallowed hard, and whispered the words that would change the course of her life, "Be my dad," even the toughest among them froze. This is where everything began. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and protecting the innocent, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps stories like this reach more hearts. She was 12. Her name was Leela, and the bruise wasn't the first one. That much the bikers could tell without asking. Her shoes were torn, her jacket too thin for the cold, and the kind of sadness she carried didn't belong on a child's face. She had walked 2 miles that morning just to reach that gas station, not because she was lost, but because the night before, after another fight at home, she heard someone at school say that bikers, real bikers, never let anyone hurt kids. She didn't know if it was true, but she needed something to believe in, something stronger than fear, so she followed the sound of engines. The leader of the group, a broad-shouldered man named Steele, had a scar down the side of his jaw and the kind of face that looked carved out of stone. But when he saw the bruise on Leela's eye, something inside him cracked. He crouched down slowly, like approaching a small wounded animal, and asked her what happened. She didn't answer. She just held out a crumpled paper, her school's address, and whispered again, "Be my dad." It wasn't a request for adoption or a dream or anything complicated. It was simpler, rawer, desperate. She wanted someone to show up, someone to stand behind her for once. Steele's throat tightened. The other bikers shifted uncomfortably, not with irritation but with a silent, burning sense of duty. They weren't saints. They weren't heroes, but they knew how to protect their own, and in that moment, every one of them silently decided she was theirs. So they rode. The schoolyard was quiet when the 27 bikes pulled in, engines rumbling like rolling thunder shaking the ground. Teachers froze. Students pressed against the windows. Even the principal stepped outside, face pale, unsure whether to call the police or hide. And behind the towering wall of leather and chrome, Leela stepped out from the back of Steele's bike, holding onto his vest like it was a lifeline. She didn't tremble now. Not when she had 27 shadows standing between her and the world. Word spread quickly. Bullies who had laughed at her bruises suddenly found something very interesting to stare at on the ground. The kids who whispered about her in hallways quickly melted into the background. But the most important confrontation was yet to come. Her stepfather, Mark, stormed into the school not long after, red-faced and furious, ready to drag her home like he always did. But when he reached the courtyard, he stopped dead. Steele didn't threaten him. No one lifted a fist. They didn't need to. Steele simply stepped forward, his massive frame blocking the doorway, his voice low but sharp as broken glass. He told Mark that Leela would not be leaving with him. Not today. Not ever again unless she wanted to. The rest of the bikers formed a silent, immovable wall behind him. It wasn't violence that made Mark step back. It was the undeniable truth that for the first time, he wasn't the biggest force in the room. There were 27 men who didn't even know Leela yesterday, but who already loved her more than he ever had. The school counselor was the one who finally approached Leela, guiding her gently inside while the bikers stood guard outside the door. Social services were called. Reports were made. And when asked if she had anyone who could take care of her, Leela looked through the glass window toward the bikes lined up like loyal sentinels and whispered, "Them." It took hours before everything was sorted legally, but in the end, she wasn't sent home. She was placed in temporary care, and the bikers made sure it wasn't temporary for long. Steele volunteered first. He had no kids of his own, no family, just an old house, a rebuilt life, and a quiet loneliness he never admitted out loud. Leela changed that the first night she came home with him. She didn't talk much, but she didn't need to. He made her dinner, she left half of it for later out of habit, and he gently told her she didn't have to hide food anymore. He tucked her in. She cried for an hour quietly into the blanket until she finally slept. And every morning after that, 27 bikes showed up at her school, not to intimidate, not to scare, but to remind her she was no longer alone. Months passed, her bruise healed. The shadows in her eyes slowly faded. She began to raise her hand in class. She made a friend. She laughed, a real laugh, one that made Steele look away sometimes so she wouldn't see the tears gathering in the corners of his scarred eyes. She joined a little art club. She drew motorcycles first, then people, then a big mural for the school with the words "Stronger Together" written across it in bold colors. In time, Steele officially became her legal guardian. The day the judge approved it, Leela slipped her small hand into his calloused one and whispered, "Thank you, Dad." And for the first time in decades, Steele felt something warm crack open inside him, something bigger than pride, deeper than love. A reason to live for someone other than himself. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more life-changing stories to the world. Before the ending, please comment, "Protect every child." Leela grew into a confident, brave young woman. She no longer walked with her head down. She no longer flinched at sudden sounds. She no longer feared going home, because home wasn't a place of shouting or pain anymore. It was a place of roaring engines, protective arms, shared meals, laughter, and unconditional love. And every year on the anniversary of the day, she walked into that gas station with a black eye and impossible hope. 27 bikes still ride with her, now not as strangers, but as family.